continues its activities in Sharm el-Sheikh. Macron urges more Chinese pressure to end Ukraine war. And Trump prepares to launch third campaign for the White House. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received a phone call from the Brazilian president-elect Lula da Silva on Tuesday. Presidential spokesman Bassem Radi said that during the telephone conversation, da Silva thanked President el-Sisi for congratulating him on his winning of the presidency, expressing appreciation to President el-Sisi and Egypt. The Brazilian leader hailed the close and strategic ties that bind the two countries and praised Egypt's achievements in the past few years concerning economic reform and realizing a comprehensive development. He asserted that he was keen to attend the COP27 conference after receiving an invitation from President el-Sisi. Silva further said that he was looking forward to expanding ties and cooperation with Egypt in various domains, especially at the economic and trade levels. For his part, President el-Sisi welcomed da Silva's participation at COP27 and wished Brazil prosperity and progress. The head of state expressed Egypt's appreciation to distinguished relations with Brazil, especially its outstanding development experience that had a positive economic impact. The president said Egypt is looking forward to activating frameworks of cooperation with Brazil in all fields, specifically trade and economy. UN Climate Change Conference COP27 continued its activities in Sharm el-Sheikh on Tuesday. The day's activities are being held under the slogan dedicated to energy issues. Energy Day aims to review fair transition and energy in Africa and the energy security in light of the current crisis. It also focuses on finding innovative and technological solutions as well as laying down green hydrogen policies, mechanisms for activating green economies, and financing transition to clean energy also top the agenda of Energy Day. Still on COP, Tuesday's sessions were also entitled Civil Society Day, as climate action needs the participation of all parties, stressing the importance of civil society as a partner in the global effort to combat climate change. The Civil Society Day aims to involve the civil society in agendas of the international work to face the climate change and guarantee merging points of view, in addition to activating communication and development of partnership chances. The European Union vowed at UN climate talks on Tuesday that it will strengthen its carbon-cutting commitments, insisting that the bloc was not backtracking in the face of Ukraine war. Armed with new plans to curb greenhouse gases, the EU says it will be able to exceed its original plan to cut emissions by 55% by 2030, with a new goal of over 57% from the 1990s level. The story.
The EU voted to step up its emission cuts at UN climate talks on Tuesday as developing nations admonished rich polluters for falling short on efforts to help them cope with global warming. The COP27 conference in Egypt has been dominated by calls for wealthy nations to fulfill pledges to fund the green transitions of poorer countries least responsible for global emissions, build their resilience and compensate them for climate-linked losses. The meeting comes as global emissions are slated to reach an all-time high this year, making the aspirational goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels ever more elusive. European Commission Vice President Frans Timmermans told delegates that the European Union will update its climate commitment as it will be able to exceed its original plan to cut emissions by 55% by 2030. The 27-nation bloc will now be able to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 57% from 1990 levels, he said. The invasion of Ukraine by fossil fuel exporter Russia has cast a shadow over the talks in Egypt, with activists accusing Europeans of seeking to tap Africa for natural gas following Russian supply cuts. COP27 has exposed deep divisions between wealthy polluters and nations vulnerable to the most ferocious climate impacts. UN climate talks often go into overtime, and this year's meeting, due to end on Friday, could be no different. Wealthy and developing nations are sharply divided over money at COP27. Developing countries say this year's floods in Pakistan, which have cost the country up to $40 billion have highlighted the pressing need to create a loss and damage compensation fund. The draft declaration mentions the need for funding arrangements to address loss and damage language used by the United States and Europeans since COP27 started on November 6.
The Ministry of Interior continued its efforts to follow up on the prices of strategic commodities and reporting hiding of commodities to sell them at a higher price. Authorities managed to seize 135.5 tons of unlicensed salt in Cairo, 90 tons of unvalid salts in Giza. Authorities also seized more than 23 tons of meat and poultry, as well as 12 tons of flour and salt in Giza and Qalibaya governorate. This is in addition to 12 tons of paints in Giza and 51 tons of fertilizer, plus 39 tons of animal feed in Giza and Monofeya. In regional news, a Palestinian man was shot dead by Israeli occupation forces on Tuesday. Israeli officials claim the Palestinian martyr had killed 2 Israelis and injured 4 others at the entrance of the settlement to Ariel. The Israeli attack came hours before Israel swore in its new parliament as veteran hawk Benjamin Netanyahu advances talks with allies on forming a coalition which could be the most right-wing in Israeli history. Of the 120 lawmakers